was amazing to see Lachine-Est. I'd heard about the écoquartier project and plan, but I hadn't been there. For me, as a resident of Montreal, it gave me a much deeper understanding as to the kind of industrial history and urban history of Montreal and the kind of formation of the city. And I imagine to participants who aren't from here, this would have been even stronger because it would have really brought some of these themes of adaptation futures to life in the context of a really concrete project. Essentially, the Lachine-Est team guided us through the space. It's actually a pretty massive site. So we walked to first the Lachine Canal, which is kind of where it starts. And then we walked kind of alongside the whole actual écoquartier, which is an old industrial site. And it's really striking and amazing to see because it's still very much under construction. So it looks like a big industrial kind of wasteland at the moment with lots of old kind of rusty metal and so on. And really cool to see it in that stage and have the facilitators and the project managers tell us about what they're planning and how they're going to build it up into a community space. Outlining the whole vision to build a bunch of housing there. Of different types of kind of affordability level, let's say, some social housing and some targeted at family homes and different community spaces and shops and so on in this former industrial land, and connect these houses to the river. And then there was a very interesting socio-economic discussion where there was questioning and further discussion. Some of the participants actually started bringing up this, like, hold on, so what's this going to mean for the surrounding quartiers? Is this going to increase gentrification? Because a lot of the participants had experiences with projects like this. And it seemed like this is really where I saw the two-way learning exchange come to life, because I felt that the Lachine-Est facilitators had their tour and their presentation, but really when we got to these more critical points, that's really when the discussion came to life and when they were really inspired and also challenged to really talk about how they're planning to do this and mitigate for these potential adverse consequences in the future. And then one of the facilitators of the Lachine-Est team, who hadn't spoken so much, really stood up from the back and came to life, and everybody was like, yeah, that's why he's here, because he's the one thinking about these socioeconomic balances and so on. And I feel like that's when we really left the pre-mediated tour and really got into very authentic, critical exchange. That was, I think, my favorite element of it. Traditionally, these conference field trips can feel a bit sort of helicopter parachutey, that a bunch of international delegates or conference participants that can be quite an elite group of people sort of look at a local project as if they were kind of in the zoo and then go away. So I think the challenge is, how do we facilitate these conference field trips and local experiences in a way that's a bit more profound and more two-way. And certainly I think it's super important for conferences to not just be these kind of isolated silos where international practitioners and academics talk to each other, but that they somehow move towards being more porous to local communities, since climate change and environmental issues have such a huge local element to them. And I think this was better than I'd ever experienced it before, in that the mixture between actually showing the project and then also being able to have a discussion about how things can contribute, how both sides can sort of contribute to each other. So I think it was a great start and better than I'd ever experienced it before. I would certainly encourage any conference, especially climate and environmentally related ones, to think critically and constructively about how to facilitate these exchanges and continue to do that better.